Hello and hi. I can't even put into words how excited I am to be here with you for this game because I could go on and on, but I think you should introduce yourself to everybody before I go off on a very long tangent.
Okay, so I usually go by CB or C Bedford online. But my pronouns are they, them, or any pronouns. I'm very much a person who's like, oh man, I don't want to have to pick or choose a gender. I'm not into that, right?
Who needs to?
Um, yeah. But I still use the name Christine sometimes because my mother gave me that name, and I can't let it go. So Christine is also fine. And yeah, so I am like the artist and the kind of creative director for this particular project. I come from the team a la mode, and that team is mainly me and my partner Tom. So he does all the programming and actually makes it a game. I do like kind of what you see. So all the modeling, all the characters, the paintings. I did kind of the writing. I did the most of that. And we share the effort of like level design and game design together. So yeah, I learned a lot during this project and
Oh my
kind of
gosh, I
it's fun.
bet, yeah. By the way, for those meeting me for the first time, my name is Jeff. I play lots of games like this. I am a big survival horror fan, and full disclosure, I actually started streaming this yesterday, so I have like about 2 to 3 hours logged already, and I have loved every single bit that I've played. But I wanted to take it from the top for the audience here. And I had to like go a little bit just to start on this moment because I thought it was such a fun way to introduce Michelle. um because like the first line of like that'll be 5:46, I was like, because like for those who missed it, this guy was going on and on. She was daydreaming and he was going on about his failed marriage proposal. And she could not care less. So what a beautiful intro to Michelle. What went into the process of uh creating her? Because from what I've seen so far, she is a really fun protagonist.
Okay, so it's kind of funny. It's I guess a good way to sort of preface it is she is sort of an example of what happens when you get to do indie dev and no one can tell you no. And that also means that the first time you do something can be the correct version. So Michelle is the first like humanoid like 3D model I've ever made. She's had a couple tweaks
Wow.
here and there, but she was the first one that I made like when I was seriously starting to work on this game. And yeah, so essentially it first started off as what's like a kind of fun character design to sort of work with, and I wanted to do like this character with a big I was into the big fur coats at the time because I've got one
Yeah.
like this, yeah. And it just kind of went from there. I just really liked her design, and this game is filled with a lot of characters that I've had for many years that come from very different, like different stories that I've integrated into this. So it just felt right that this character that I just like made and created was the protagonist for this game. It just felt like, okay, she's new, she's fresh, she should be kind of like the face of the game.
Yeah, I felt like she's such a good driving force for this. Just like the setup for her journey through this, I
Yeah.
thought is very well done. And I'm also curious because all the characters, as you're gonna see, like just the way they're designed and their style and everything, they all have their very own distinct personalities, and I have loved each and every one of them for different reasons. But I'm curious, do you have one that you enjoyed working on the most?
Oh, that's really hard because, like,
They're all your babies, right?
yeah, yeah, and again, that's going right back into the indie dev stuff because I did work at another company for like a couple years before this doing character design,
Fun.
um,
It
and
shows.
thank you. And it's that thing too of like when you're working for another company, there's so many other voices, especially when it's a bigger company and there's like bigger publishers involved. A lot of things get changed. A lot of things kind of sometimes you get this thing coming back from like an entity that you've never met before. And it's like, hey, this character in another game looks like this. So why don't you make your character look like that too. And, you get a little bit, you get a little bit worn out and a little bit sanded down. I had a great time at that company, and like the people I did speak to on the daily were like really good and supportive, and really enjoyed the raw stuff that I made. But
Mm.
then coming into this, where no one can tell me no, and my partner, Tom, he really believes in my vision. Like, he always says that he's not really got an eye for art, which he kind of does, but he was like, no, just you do what you think is good because it will be good, he said. And so that just meant being able to make whoever I want and however I wanted to make them. And it was just so like liberating.
Oh my god, I bet. Yeah.
It's just I don't know. And I think the thing that was really fun about it too was a lot of these characters, like some of them, they take like a part of me. A lot of them, there's like, one particular character who is literally just like a self-insert, right? Nobody can stop me either. That's the great thing. I can just put
Go
myself in
for it. Heck
there.
yes.
But a lot of these characters, like, they also have parts of like my friends and like my family, and people that I grew up around, people who really influenced my life. And it was just nice to be able to have them kind of crystallized into a fun little world that, I don't know, I hope is kind of full enough to really let those personalities shine, at
Oh,
least.
absolutely. I genuinely like as I was, having the dialogue with all these characters, I can tell that you pulled from like some good like personal experiences or just like maybe even conversations you've had with characters like these in your own life because the dialogue all feels so natural and it feels like I'm just kind of sitting there hanging out with these characters and that's what I love to see.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I think, the dialogue itself was really tricky at first because writing isn't like, I don't have like a strong background in writing. I've done a couple comics and stuff, and there's a bit of an overlap in when you're writing for comics. The writing is supplementing like the art. It's part of, like, it's not standing on its own, and it's the same thing for games. Like, the writing is supplementing the game. It's not standing on its own. I feel that maybe if I was a little bit more experienced, I could have like tightened it up a little bit more. But yeah, I think it was just so tricky trying to figure out what voices, how to mold voices for a person, and how to um how to make them kind of sound believable in this weird world that they're part of. Like,
Mm,
I think the hardest thing being Michelle's almost like kind of nonchalant reaction to some of the things that she's seeing. And
right.
it seems like you want, like, initially I was like, oh, she needs to kind of react a bit more because that seems natural. But what ends up happening when you do writing like that for a game where people are playing, if you actually have the protagonist react in a way that people naturally would, it just would become so tiring seeing her exclaim for, like, the 50th time, "I can't believe that I'm seeing," you know what I mean?
Right.
And I think in that way, it was actually better to try and let Michelle sort of describe what was there and just let the player have their own reaction. And I kind of hope that's what happens with people. It's hard to tell
Yeah.
though, like, you know.
Yeah, everyone kind of brings their own experiences into this and kind of reacts differently. I feel like especially like with a lot of the interactions with Robin, I feel like when I was streaming it, I definitely had a few people being like, "Oh, that's bestie energy." Like
I'm
immediately.
I'm really glad. Robin, I will say that that is the actual, like, proper, like, okay, the other characters definitely, I would say all the bad characters are the ones that have, like, what I feel are my personality traits that I really
Hmm.
struggled with.
Mhm.
And bad characters meaning like Daryl, the Duchess, anyone who kind of seems a little bit like awkward. That's me being like, oh, I hate this part about myself. How do I turn that into an
Mm.
entertaining character? But
Yeah.
Robin, through and through, is the self-insert. Like, I have the hat, I have the jacket, I wear that outfit all the time.
Oh, so this is you. So this is you.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Give it up.
And
We got CB in the game as well. I love this.
it feels a little bit awkward kind of like admitting to that, but at the same time, I think just over time, like, growing up, seeing like the media that we did, like especially for like my age group. in the sort of late '80s, early '90s, even early 2000s, just after a while, you're seeing like the same kind of people, and you're like, oh, I want something more. I want something that that hits a little closer to home. Sometimes I'm watching like two characters, and it'll be like, I like you see the chemistry of some characters on TV sometimes, and it'll be like two women, and I'll be like, why aren't they like kissing? Because they like each other more than like the boyfriend character that they have randomly floating around in the background.
Right.
So after a while, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to put exactly who I want in the games. And that included myself because there were a lot of things that I struggled with my self image, with who I was as a person. And I just thought, you know what? Am I allowed to swear? I shouldn't, but I'd be like, you know what? Just put it in, put it in, put her in there, put them in there, put him in there, and just let people like experience, I guess, a part of me.
Yeah. No, and I think you're kind of a testament to how like that is a possibility. Like you are a multifaceted human being that can exist within like the confines of like a fictional universe and um develop a really interesting story. I think that's great. Is there anything in particular that like inspired kind of the story and how this all went? Because I remember it was first marketed to me as like neon survival horror, and I was like, ooh, wait, that sounds really neat. And then I also saw someone streaming it, and they titled it "Gay Silent Hill," and I was like, wait, that's amazing. So like, was there anything you in particular you pulled from for like inspirations on creating this experience?
Okay, so I think in terms of like direct inspirations, in terms of like other video games, things like Resident Evil 4. My partner really pulled in some like aspects of Zelda that he really enjoyed. For me, it was like I enjoyed like things like Illbleed, and
Ooh, mhm.
I yeah, Illbleed, I remember that's when I had, like, a Dreamcast in my room, and nobody, I think all of 5 people in the world have played Illbleed.
Yeah,
And,
that's what I've heard.
yeah, it's, like, such an obscure thing now. But also, gosh, what else? Oh, Silent Hill definitely is, like, that was one of my first. I remember my brother playing it. I was too scared to play it because it came out when I was, like, really little.
It's a little scary, yeah.
Yeah, and but the thing was it was so fascinating. Like, my little brain was like, "What is going on?" Like, it felt real because of how, like, strange and atmospheric it was. So it really pulled me in, and it was that thing of even when I'm not playing the game as a child, I'm like, I'm watching my brother play, but I'm thinking about it when I walked away from it, like, it just sort of stuck with me. Um, so, but there's a lot of other like outside influences as well. And Twin Peaks has a very far and wide reach in terms of the different media that it does, intersect with and that people pull from it. But the thing for us, the inspiration from Twin Peaks for us in this wasn't just like the weird stuff happening. It was in Twin Peaks, there's like 2 sides of it. There's like the happy kind of soap opera side of it, where it's like, there's these character interactions. They're all talking, they're all living their personal lives, and you're watching that unfold. And then there's the dark side of it, where there are the dark sides of the relationships. There's the supernatural aspect of it.
The
Um,
supernatural aspects of it
yeah,
coming in right here.
yeah. So it's like I was really interested in that dynamic. It was like the thing of I was calling it the, cherry pie to Black Lodge ratio, and,
Okay.
yeah, it's like there are the moments in Twin Peaks where he's eating the cherry pie, there's the coffee, there's the cafe, there's, like, all of these really sweet characters who are falling in love, and then, like, he gets stuck in the other world for, like, 25 years, right? So those are some of the inspirations. In terms of the story itself, though, that's like a personal. It was a personal story. It's a lot to do with like me coming out as non-binary, especially in a
Hmm.
long-term relationship, and like the effects that had, and the perceptions, and the kind of like trying to understand yourself, but also having to explain it to someone else who didn't quite
Mm.
understand what I was going through.
Right.
Um, yeah, so and it's like, it's also sort of the kind of conversations that I had with some of my other like trans friends who were coming out of different parts of their lives, and the things that they were struggling with. Um, and yeah, so it's kind of like a reflection of, yes, people change while in love. Love changes people. Like it's all about change. And not only that too, but like just the change you go in general. Like you get older, time goes on, your body changes, just everything about you as a person continually changes. There's no permanent state of self.
Yeah,
So
for
that's
sure.
kind of what this is about.
I love that. Yeah, it's, I'm noticing, I'm like, as I was playing it, I feel like I noticed like some character journeys, or the you start to get those journeys like started fairly early, and like what kind of struggles they might have, and I'm super fascinated to see more of that. I think what caught my eye, and definitely what I noticed caught the eyes of people that were watching, is like the fashion. I There's something about fashion that just like immediately pulls me into a game. Like, is this your taste in fashion by chance? Like, is this what you wear day to day?
I mean, I wish I could say day to day, but at the moment, because we've been working on the game, I've just been in like my pajamas at home.
Slay, love that.
But, so yes, I also I try to, like, integrate a couple of things that maybe are a little bit beyond, like, what I would wear, like, myself, but there are definitely, like, loads of stuff that's just from my own wardrobe that I was like, "You know what? I like that, and I'm not wearing it enough, so I'll just have this
Mm.
character wear it for me." And I'm definitely, though, a type of person who, I have I'm definitely like that spectrum person where there are some days where I'm like, "Oh, yes, I'm gonna wear my button-down shirt, with my nice,
Mm.
sort of pea coat," and then, another day I'm, like, wearing, like, a lime green furry coat with, like, heels on that I can't walk in. Um,
But,
I
you're trying your best and you're looking
I
great.
I try so hard. I have to, like, wear the wedge heels because, like, I hope and pray that someone will teach me how to walk in a stiletto one day. Because like, I need to know before my time is up, you know?
Right.
Um,
Oh, I feel that.
but yeah, so it's very much the fashion I'm into, and I've always been into street fashion.
Mm.
I remember, like, getting the Fruits magazines. They made, like, 2, collective books that they, published in the States, and I got both of them, and I was so obsessed, like, looking through it's like a street fashion magazine from Japan, and I looked through it so much that, like, the pages were falling apart, and, I grew up in New York, so I was born and raised in New York, and, that in itself is already its own kinda scene, so
Mm.
I just want like, I wanna have fun with the
Oh,
designs,
yeah.
I wanna have fun, so
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff to look at in this. I loved her outfit immediately. Marty's outfit, oh, so good. There's so much that just a fashion sense, I feel like tells you so much about a person, and I feel like you
mhm,
did a fantastic job like bringing that personality out in the characters just through what they're wearing.
thank you. I take that as a really high compliment, and I think, yeah, I think it was absolutely something that I wanted to show because I feel that fashion in itself, it's like fashion is like one of the things that we have like some of the most control over, and maybe
Mm.
not for everyone. Like I understand it completely depends on circumstances, but for many people, that is something that they can choose for themselves, and especially if there's like a certain point in your life where that is like the first way you kind of express yourself.
Mm.
And yeah, I think, yeah, that's I definitely wanted it to be that. Like it's I feel that the way I like to do design my characters is like I do kind of start off with something a little bit tropey. Like, okay,
Mm.
Marty has like that kind of grungy look. He's a little like, hey, dude, working at his record shop, but
Mhm.
I want to like take something of that character and put something in there that's a little bit more believable about them, something that gives them a little twist, like the friends you have in real life. Like, everyone's got like the goth friend who, has a really specific interest of like, I don't know, sea slugs or something. And like they'll just go on and on about sea slugs, but they're like completely dressed in like this goth look. And otherwise they're totally into that lifestyle. But there's just something about them that just makes them unique.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Speaking of like unique, there's, with all the different kind of like character journeys that are happening in here and the storylines that they're being taken on, I'm curious, is there one that like, because I know like as myself as like having written a lot of things as well, like I, there are definitely some things where I'll like get to writing it and I notice it starts bringing up emotions and I'm like, oh my gosh, ooh. Is there anything in particular that you felt like when you were creating these stories, like kind of almost was like cathartic for you to see turned into a game?
Oh gosh. Hmm. Yeah, there's quite a few of those things. I think probably both. There's like a story with an angel in there named okay, I don't even know how to pronounce my own characters' names, and I've been seeing so many people because I say Camuel, and then I've seen people saying Chamuel and Shamuel. So
Okay. You know what? That makes me feel better about when I get to pronounce it. So I'll just be like, well, CB also said that they don't know how to pronounce it either. So um, it's fine.
it's just it's like an uncommon name now. So I think anything flies really. But so this character and like kind of his storyline is a little bit about like repression. And I think that was pretty cathartic to write about, like, this thing of because also I'm having to write like the different paths that the player can go down. So it's like I got to both write the path where it's like the action that I would like to, that I have taken or would have liked to take in life versus the path that I used to take in life or what it would be like if I hadn't made certain decisions. And in both ways, in writing that, it felt really like, oh man, things would have been so much harder still if I hadn't changed. But you get to go back into a mindset that you used to have and really think like, you get a sense of how you used to be and how you've changed from that. And then yeah, like writing this the path of that I'd like for people to take. But it's I don't know. It's like trying to make everything feel like a valid option. Um
Okay.
yeah, so in that way, like, the whole process was cathartic just because going through the different paths meant that I could kind of explore the different ways that I felt about all of these things in my life. The Duchess's, without getting too spoilery, the Duchess's path, um, when writing the Duchess, I tried to approach it both as, like, a villain that could potentially turn into, like, a heroine at the, like,
Mm.
yeah, like, partway through. So I always had in my mind that there was meant to be a specific point throughout when people would find them relatable,
I
and
like that.
that was yeah, it's sort of satisfying. I hope it's worked. It feels like it has for some people at least.
Yeah, I love how I kind of seeing that like trajectory of like maybe someone who is like an antagonist or a villain and then kind of turning into like, oh wait, maybe I don't have to be that way.
Yeah.
It can be really nice. Since we're approaching the end of our time, I was curious. There's definitely a lot going on in this game, all with like really unique, fun journeys that I'm really excited to see um, unfold. So I'm curious: is there something that you hope people kind of take away from this? Like after they finish the game, like how are you? What are you? It kind of inspiring them to feel through this story?
Oh, I hope that people feel like it's okay to change, um,
Mm, yeah.
and that what you change into isn't even necessarily the last transformative thing that you'll go through, and I think I feel that now, especially because, like I said, I'm as I'm getting older and realizing, like, not just the change with my perception of how I want people to see me, there are just things that are changing about my body that I cannot control. Like, it's the very
Mm,
mortal feeling of, like, just getting older. And it takes so much work to feel okay about that,
yeah.
to kind of, like, see your youth, like, slowly fading away. And, yeah, I just hope that people feel like, yeah, that it's okay to change, that you will continue to change, and that, you know, just sort of accepting it and finding a way through it. And Yeah, take control of what you can and whatever you can, like, as much as you can, but also there are just gonna be some things that are out of your control, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think being able to kind of release that like sense that you have to like have control over everything that goes on in your life and even like, your identity. Like sometimes things
Mhm.
come up where you're just like, oh right, that can happen. And like now that I'm encountering these things, like, oh, I am allowed to kind of morph into my experiences and
Yeah.
what inspires me to be the person I would like to be.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's the best thing. Like, you don't have to pick one thing and then just stick with it. It's okay for it to change. It's okay for it to change back.
Yeah.
We call that discovery. We call that growth.
Yes. Absolutely. I have loved getting to chat with you about this. You have definitely a little bit of inspiration to me because I feel like the way like you have put a passion project into the world, and I feel like it's been incredibly successful. So I think that's
Thank you.
such a great testament to like anyone watching being able to follow their dreams exactly the way you have. So feel free to tell people where they can find more info on the game or where they can grab the game for themselves.
Yeah, sure. It's on Steam. It's out now. It's already out. You can buy and purchase the full game. And yes, it's called Sorry We're Closed. Oh, excuse me. We're also, I think it is also on GOG and Epic Game Store. I think my partner knows more about that than I do. And as well as that, you can follow us on Blue Sky. Where Hold on, I got to check. I'm pretty sure we're Alamode Games on Blue Sky.
I think I saw that just before the segment. Yes, I believe
Yes, we are
so.
Allo Mode Games on Blue Sky,
Perfect.
and it's the same on Twitter. Though obviously, I think a lot of people are sort of migrating to Blue Sky, so like I'm trying to be a little bit more active on there first. But
It's a little bit better for engagement coming from someone who's done a lot of social
yeah,
media, so I you're
mm.
in the right place for sure. Yeah.
So that's where you can mainly find out about the game. And if you do purchase the game and you do enjoy it, please leave a review because, like for indie games, that is the one thing that lets us kind of strive and kind of live amongst a
Yeah.
lot of these other larger titles. So thank
Yes.
you again, everyone who supported it so far as well.